What do you think are some of Carys' 4 favorite books?
Oh my God. It's a book called The Best of Everything. You've not read it?
No.
Once you read that, you will know why I said that.
I love that.
Like, we are remiss in that book did not play a part in our show. It doesn't make any sense. Read that and you're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Sarah Jessica, welcome to One Nightstand. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Have
Thank
you
you.
always been a big reader?
Yes, I think I have. We all grew up reading, my siblings and I. I'm one of 8. And I think it was a really clever way for my mother to keep us busy and probably not as vocal in a long car ride. Not all of us can read in cars. My mom can't, my sister, I have a sister who can't, I have a brother. It's a bummer. Mm-hmm. It's really awful for my mother, who probably reads more than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. So for her not to be able to read in a car, she can read when it's not moving clearly. She always had a book on her lap. So when the light turned red, she would just look down and read, turn the page and wait for the car behind her to beep.
So nobody was on light duty. It was just
no. We'd say, "Mommy," we were all readers. And then around the time that I could afford to buy my own books, because mostly we were only library users when I was small, and certainly when I was living at home. But there came a point in time where I could afford to buy my own books, and I think that was like a really big turning point in my relationship to books, because prior to that, I did try to use the libraries more, but I was traveling quite a bit then and didn't really have a home. So I couldn't trust that I was like an honorable.
Sure.
That I could return it in the time given, that it wouldn't travel to another city. But I've always been somebody that had a book with me. Always, always, always.
Do you remember some of those first books you purchased that really stuck out?
Oh my gosh, my first purchases. There was probably a lot of Bukowski, because I would have been the right age,
Yeah, totally.
I'm sure I read about more historical figures, perhaps even controversial figures at the time. I know that I purchased used copies of The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, because people my age were reading Ayn Rand, and I think we weren't yet as clear on how controversial a subject she as a person was. I can't remember where I was, but I purchased like Salinger's 9 Stories, Franny and Zoe. Yeah.
I think we were reading that's
similarly
high school age, very. I even remember my grandmother had loved The Fountainhead, not the politics.
Yeah.
The story. I mean, there's a love story. There's a lot of things.
Howard Rourke.
Yeah. I just remember, probably being like 15 and not diving into the politics at all, but plowing through that. But I mean, it's actually incredibly readable.
It is. Although I will say, I can't remember if it was The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged, which I can't remember which one I read first. And I will say that without anybody helping me realize this, there was something that bothered me about the philosophy of pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
Self-determination.
Yeah, which I was like, but I wasn't really examining it at the time.
So you've been reading for a very long time. Your mother instilled that in you. There's a difference.
Was it your parents that?
No, it was just entirely
on
me. I would
really.
Yeah, neither one of my parents were big readers.
It
really was something that I think it started with The Wizard of Oz when I was
interesting.
But there's like pictures of me as a kid where my grandparents had these red books in their house, and
the nice covered ones that are that material of the linen covered.
Exactly, and they're probably like Dickens, and I just would like try so hard to make up the words. Like, it was very just innately from me. But there's a difference between being a big reader and a Booker Prize judge reader. You're supposed to read 170 books in someone.
It's probably closer to 220, 30. I don't know. We're not entirely sure yet what the final count will be, but it's definitely, I think it's going to be close to 200.
So you haven't started yet?
I've started. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
when I finish this most recent batch, we're up to book 103.
Which began when?
December 23rd.
So how are you doing it? What does your nightstand look like? What does your bag look like?
My bag looks like filled with books.
Yeah.
I'm doing it similarly to the way I typically read, which is anytime, anywhere, any place. The difference is that a kind of gluttony that was like me, and this is, I'm looking for the same opportunities, but I'm carving out times because I'm not on a set. So I'm devoting sometimes 6, 8, 10 hours a day to reading.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible, but it is so different. I can't even explain to people what it's like, but it's amazing. And when I don't have that time, that's when I'm more panicked because I know what I have to read by our next deliberation, which is coming up fairly soon. And I know how many books left I have to read in order to submit my list for deliberation. It's incredible, though. It is, I mean, like at first blush, the thing that's really incredible is seeing famous authors on the spreadsheet of books you're going to get, and some of whom have not published in a while, and some of those books are yet to be published. So we're reading, we're reading manuscripts arcs, I would say about maybe third right now are unpublished. So, and then discovering writers I've never heard of, which is thrilling, especially when the books are really, really good.
Well, the first book we're going to talk about today is These Days by Lucy Caldwell, which you brought to the U.S. via your SJP Lit imprint.
Yes.
Tell me about, what made you want to publish this one?
There's this really kind of extraordinary feeling you're looking for when you are reading a book, that feeling that, oh my gosh, this is special. And that's happened with most of the books, all of the books that I've read in manuscript form and hope to publish, and this was certainly the case. That's certainly the case with this book. And I think what struck me early on, like early in the early pages of reading the book, was how smooth and masterful Lucy is at taking this moment in history. So it takes place in Northern Ireland during 4 days of the Blitz. And it's two sisters who are in response to this conflict very differently. And it affects their lives differently. So I knew already that she had pulled me in with this idea of this moment in time. It's a moment in history that I am particularly interested in anyway, and I had been reading a lot about the Blitz. I'd been reading a lot about Winston Churchill prior to and after the manuscript, so I was very interested and realized that I had not considered Northern Ireland and how it had been impacted, or the way in which it was party to this war. She's just a very confident storyteller. It comes so naturally to her, and I think the best example of this is hearing her. She is so good at reading her material. She lives it so much. She has a beautiful voice. She's really comfortable presentationally, and it's because this idea of like the yarn is she's just really good at it.
Yeah, Northern Ireland is something I have been reading more about. I read Say Nothing by Patrick Redknapp.
Oh my gosh, so incredible.
Truly, I mean, just
isn't that a staggering? Yeah. It's like
it's just, and I loved the show. I loved the show as well.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I think The Troubles was a history I knew vaguely of, but was not super aware of growing up. I don't think it was necessarily taught to us in school in any way than more of a footnote.
Yeah.
So getting to learn that history has been really rich for me, whether it's Say Nothing or I watched the movie about Kneecap last year. Do you know that they're rappers from the Belfast area who speak in Irish, and that was a very cool film.
If you're interested in that period, I think Once Upon a Time in Northern Ireland.
Oh, no.
It's a 5-part documentary series on Northern Ireland, and you can feel Patrick Radden Keefe's research in it, and it's the first time these people who were party to, participated in on both sides, have ever spoken on camera in their lives, who were deep in the crosshairs of the Troubles, and it's really, I would say, one of the top 5 documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life, and you would love it because it's like rich.
Yeah, I might truly start it tonight.
Yes,
I think,
you will love it.
As someone who has recently become very invested in learning more about that history, to then go back to the Blitz was a real, just to see the strife and what a fraud, the difficulties that land as people have faced for so long.
Yeah.
You're such it's a beautiful literary story, but also I really appreciated the history lesson.
Yeah, me too. I was like, no one talks about Northern Ireland. No one talks about how they were hit and, how their men and women were on the ground and participating and basically enlisted. And it's just really interesting. But she tells it in she got such an easy style to her that it doesn't feel like, historical fiction that's like meant to be a lesson of time.
It's a sister story.
Yeah.
I have one sister, and we're not much like Audrey or Emma, but there's still dynamics that fit in. It felt like watching these two women change and find similarities and differences under horrific circumstances.
Yeah. I'm glad you
really
liked it.
Yay. But we're gonna stick with Ireland for a little bit.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about the bee sting. As I was prepping today, I knew I had read this New York Magazine article about, there's such an explosion of Irish arts right now, whether it's our actors or writers, and the term that they were calling it is the crack pack, which really made me laugh. I just had to share that fact.
And it's that CRAI,
yes,
right?
Correct,
crack, as in good crack, as in like a good time.
Yeah. But the bee sting, I enjoyed so much. Particularly, I was really moved by Imelda's section. So, tell me, I guess, why you wanted to talk about it today and which you found the most compelling.
First of all, I love the author. It's Paul Murray, and I love that. I think he's just a really, really talented writer.
He's it's the first I've read of his, but I'll go back.
Yes, he has so much more to offer you.
Yeah.
I love the period. Like, you immediately feel this particular period in Ireland's recent economic history, which is, I think we all knew about it. If you were old enough and you were paying a little bit of attention to global economies, we all knew about it. And because we had seen this extraordinary thing happen called the Celtic Tiger, where Ireland's economy went crazy, and then this awful housing thing that happened there, and it really plummeted and destroyed, a lot of people and a lot of families. And he captures it so beautifully, and it's so kind of brutal and
it's very brutal.
We spent a lot of time in Ireland, so it just feels so real to me. The Irish have a very, not surprisingly, the very own response to difficulty, troubles, hard times, disappointments. And he helps us feel it it felt to me so accurate and so, I don't know, like, I keep wanting to say brutal because his descriptions of home and his descriptions of where money what it used to look like and how it used to sit and what that meant for people, and a car or a coat or a bag. Yeah. And what's so impressive is when you first, to me, what felt so impressive about his style of telling us his story is that he really treats each character with such dignity and pathos. Like, Imelda starts off and you're reading and there's this speed, and then at a certain point you realize he didn't use any punctuation for her. And it's just incredible. Like, it just says so much about the speed, her central nervous system, and the speed in which she is agitated.
Yeah.
And her particular disappointment and the way the world looked at her. Yeah. And her attempt at love and how it left her. Like, there's so much in his choice of style that he just brings you in. And the way he just treats every chapter. I mean, I will never get over the chapter of the father's experiences at school. It's like almost unbearable. It's like, but I love books like that. I love a book that is, as Michael Patrick King always says, pushes on the bruise. Like, I love feeling deserted. Like, I couldn't believe what he did in this book at the end.
Well, how do you feel about the ending?
I was like, I can't believe you did this to the readers. Because the book, I don't know if I'm allowed to touch the stack
Please.
here. Oh.
Yeah, no,
So the book is, I'm going to be reminded, that's Donna Tartt's book. Her book is 782 pages or something like that. I can't remember. It's the bee sting. Oh, here it is. Sorry. I'm not used to this cover because it's the paperback.
Oh, okay.
Wait, how many pages is this?
It's in the 600s.
So, yes. So, it's just, I read, here's the other thing. I read it before anybody else read it, so I had nobody to talk to about it. Now I have everybody, because everybody's read it. I mean, I'm afraid of what I think. I'm afraid of what I believe happened to that family.
Can I ask what you believe happened?
What do you believe? Do you believe what I believe?
As someone who also likes books that push on the bruise, I don't see a world where nobody came out of those woods unscathed. I think something happened.
Me too.
And the fear is the son for me.
I know.
Yeah, is that your...
First of all, I was so worried about the son in Dublin. Yeah. Like, I was like...
It made me sick.
Uh-huh.
It made me sick. And I'm not a mother. And it just made me...
feeling like we were above him in all those little corridors of darkened streets. And I guess I fear for the father and for the son. Terrible things happen to people. Economies create loss. And loss creates your self-confidence, your place in the world, especially in communities and parishes. Like, they're small, people know. So I think the whole book is bravely devastating.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing to me that an author spent all that time creating such sadness for his reader.
I thought a lot about, particularly in the Imelda section, well, when I was reading, there was a lot of comparison to Sound and the Fury, which I felt, especially in how the writing styles differed, but I thought a lot about Marion and Crossroads. Darky Francis.
Yes, of course.
I mean, when I read that book, which I love, I'm a huge Francis
Me
fan.
too.
I love Francis. I was like,
Isn't that's supposed to be a trilogy? But I'm like,
I'm waiting with bated
scared.
breath.
I know.
But I wanted like a standalone series just on her.
Yeah.
In her California years, and I would have, I didn't come in thinking.
Maybe that's coming though.
I hope it is.
Maybe that is coming from him.
Do you know something I don't know?
No, I really don't. I don't. But so you're saying, yeah, Imelda almost.
Imelda is so defined by her beauty that everything else and she keeps everything beneath that. And I know Marion is a character who's struggling with actually a lot of it has to do with her looks and her husband not being attracted to her, but just the depth of trauma and tragedy and like the weight they carry underneath themselves. I was just bowled over by both those women.
Yeah. And both written by men.
Yeah.
I think he's so talented. With all the writers that are in this stack, it's hard to imagine being able to produce that. Like, what is that like?
Well, I wanted to know, do you write at all?
No.
Nothing? Not journals, fiction?
No. I write letters or speeches sometimes for things, emails, long emails. I just don't have that talent at all. I think it makes me therefore so much more appreciative of those who do and do it well. Like, there are so many books in the world, and that is wonderful, and there's no wrong book to pick up, and there's no wrong way to choose a book, but to do it well,
I think you have something in you, but I
can't do that. I just can't.
Most can't.
Yeah. Do you write?
Yes, I've
of course you write. Yeah.
And I published my first book.
Oh, you
2 years
did?
ago. Yes.
What is it?
It was called The Alyssas.
Oh, of course. We met. We talked about that. I didn't recognize you.
No, I know, but I didn't
That's
want to be
right.
like,
That was wonderful.
From the French. Thank you.
Yes, and there's a third Alyssa in here.
Yeah, and you were gonna. I remember you telling me your daughter.
Yes.
I think you said like A Little Life is her favorite.
Yes.
Book. Yeah.
Yes. I just told an anecdote about her this morning, sending me feelings about Intermezzo. Like, I'm just
what is she thinking of Intermezzo?
She loves it.
She loves it.
She wrote to me, I don't have my phone, but you would appreciate it. She wrote to me this passage that was so confusing. And I said, this is very interesting, but it's very mysterious. This obviously was meant for somebody else. Like, she sent me something that she was sharing. And she's like, oh my gosh, Mama, you've read too many books lately. It's my feelings about the two characters in Intermezzo and how she feels that they are wasting their love, and her grave concern is the amount of attention he's giving Naomi and that he's losing. I think it's Sylvie.
It's still Sylvia?
Sylvia, maybe? Yeah.
All your children big readers?
No, not this. They're different readers. My son was, and then he's been in college, and I think he just doesn't read for pleasure in the same way now. He will again, I'm sure, when he's not having, because he's a classics major, so he's reading a lot. Loretta sort of comes to her books more easily, and Tabitha tends to, it's harder for her to find the book that she loves, and then she does, and it's great. But she'll read less because she's really wanting something that, I don't know, it has to really...
Has Tabitha read The Beasting?
She has not read The Beasting. I would say that's more for Loretta.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, that would be a Loretta book.
Loretta is the one reading.
Yes, like Loretta read The Goldfinch and is just like, Donna Tartt's her favorite writer. Yes.
Donna Tartt. Well, so this order in which we're going, that was kind of...
Sorry.
No, I love it. Geographically. So we're going from Ireland to Scotland.
Okay.
So I mean, like, so, you know, baked in my my segues so clear, like Davies. So tell me why you picked this one today.
So this book was sent to me by Carys Davies' agent.
Okay.
This is not the cover. This is the paperback cover. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's a really pretty cover. And this book blew me away. I just couldn't believe that she took this barren, this like super atmospheric, wild place that was just deafening in its kind of silence, but of course there's all this nature around it that is like kind of pounding, and then created a relationship between two men that is, the reader never sees it coming. It is so bold. And like, it's a very slight book. I don't know how many pages this book is.
It's not many. It was 175 maybe.
It's kind of extraordinary, like what she does in the minimal amount of pages, that I just think it's like testimony of like raw talent, skill, and efficiency. Like, you know what I mean?
And restraint. I mean, like the economics of the writing is just like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so gratuitous on the page.
Well, because we typically really want to be heard, but maybe it's like the Highlands or something that says no, you can't.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, somebody is put in a place they don't want to be, with a job they don't, and also just the idea of what that time and place was too, which I didn't really understand.
Didn't know much about either.
But then the plot twist, which is like, I think it all comes around from dancing. I think the dancing, like, it's just incredible.
It is. It's so slight and so surprising.
She's hugely talented.
You were talking about Lucy being a really prolific reader of her own work. For some reason, I feel like the confidence to write this book, you'd be a great reader.
Yeah, you'd be a great reader, definitely.
Yeah. Something I thought about, you know, and trying to make these books feel in conversation with one another is family comes up so much in these. But in a sense, you know, I was trying to place this in the mini canon we have to say, but just like the idea of the found family and, you know, the kind of how it ends, which we won't spoil too much. Well, I think first of all, I want to ask, you know, largely like what compels you so much about family stories. Not that this is a traditional one,
but it is about, there is a family that pushes this story, like literally pushes the boat into the water. There is a husband and a wife, and they think they are something. They have an idea about being a family, and that idea is like shook. And I think, you know, we were talking before the cameras were rolling, and you were saying that you struggle with fantasy, science fiction.
Fantasy is not for me.
Me too. And it listen, as a Booker judge, I am reading genres that I would not typically reach for, and I've been, you know, given a good hearty lesson in that's what you say, because you haven't been afforded the opportunity to read fantasy or science fiction that is about humanity. And so I've been proven wrong. I would still say that typically literary fiction is the place I want to be, because it's usually about the human experience, and often the human experience is about a search for another, and a connection, or the ways in which we've lost a connection, or the ways in which our connections are misunderstood, or the ways in which our connections have not done right by us, or treated us poorly or misguided us. And the part that is like heartrending, and I think the things like I feel like you and I both respond to is like when the loss is feeling so severe and it's so it could have, but for the grace of God, like it could have been you or me, or
that's something that I really that's a huge theme for me.
And you know, with all of these books thus far, everybody is trying to make a connection. Sometimes it's a connection with a better life, like when we get to A Place for Us. You know, the reason that I love that book so much is that there's all these things happening at the same time for this family. So much of it is those connections that they're trying to make with, once again, economy, class, culture, acceptance, faith, parenting, are conditional on the outside world's opinion of them. Same in The Beasting. It's like the conditions outside this attempt keep getting in the way. Sometimes they're, you know, evil. Like sometimes they are not good people, not good ideas, not good things. And sometimes they're misguided. Like I'm reading a book right now. I won't say what it is for the booker, and I love this book so much. And it's once again part of the world I've not read almost anything about, and a person whose life I do not know at all. And from what I can tell, this writer does other things.
Yeah. Okay.
The way that he is allowing me to feel about his characters is like, oh my God, you would do anything to step in the way and protect them from the very thing that they are worried about, that you are worried about, the thing that will get in the way, the thing that will stop their destination point. You know, like, it's so, I don't know why I love that.
Well, that actually really does bring me to An American Marriage, because by Tayari Jones, because that is a book where I wish, you know, you want to throw yourself into those pages to try to prevent the inevitable of what this book, you know, the crux of the story. I mean, it's funny, I don't normally love epistolary novels. It's not my favorite, and I thought it was so strong. That choice to make their letters from prison was just absolutely striking and profound.
You know, I look at some of these books, and I really will say, like, that as a parent, and I don't know why these aren't in the syllabus of an English class. Like, I am very confused why these 3 books don't sit on the shelves for us to talk about the American experience. I'm going to take this away because I know this doesn't happen in America, but there is an element of our ideas, you know. I'm going to remove this for a second and just pretend this is a class in an American school or college. Why these? Like, right next to that would be There by Tommy Orange,
which I haven't read. I've been meaning to for so long. You're like, let's stop the interview. You should go.
It's so great. But like, if I were an English teacher, and I have no business being an English teacher, these 2 books and There by Tommy Orange, to me, would be such a great way of bringing modernity to our idea of the important works and why they're important, and why do we keep teaching, you know, certain authors from 1500s on, you know.
For the record, I think you'd be a great English teacher. I think.
If only I could write a paper. I wish there was more from her. Like, I would do anything for more from her.
This is the last
very quiet
book she published. There was 3 prior.
So one of them here says Silver Sparrow, which I didn't read. But this is a very big achievement, this book.
Yeah, I mean, I think the inciting event is that there's a couple, Celestial and Roy is wrongfully accused of rape and then wrongfully imprisoned. And I think it's such a bold choice that felt so honest, so achingly honest, that it's not about the trial, it's not about the justice system. Everybody believes and knows he is innocent, but they also have no belief that he won't be
incarcerated.
yeah, because there's just, and I think that portrayal
Well,
of just the
they're black. We should say.
Oh, yes, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yes, a black family in the South.
Newly married.
Yes, a newly married black couple in Atlanta who are a year and a half into their marriage, and it is just the crisis of mass incarceration, false incarceration, just unravels their lives and destroys it, and it is just so hard.
And she didn't pull any punches, man. She doesn't give you a break. She's like, not my problem. Either you're in it because this is what it is. I can't make you feel better, reader.
Nope.
I can't give you a respite from the reality of this situation, which is a reality.
I was reading a little bit more about the origin of the story. Are you familiar at all? So she really did want to do something on mass incarceration. She writes about the black experience in Atlanta, obviously very beautifully. And she couldn't crack it. And she went to the mall and she heard a couple, I don't know what the wife's name was, but the husband was Roy, like in the book. She said to him, "If it had been me, would you have waited for me for 7 years?" And he said, "It wouldn't have happened to you." So, which is sort of the crux of the story is, he is in prison for 7 years falsely. And like I said, the marriage unravels. But the question is, can you wait for someone against that hope? And what does that do to you? And, I don't always need all my characters to be empathetic. I like thorny characters. I like complicated. I like dickish characters. I like all of it. But the strength of this book is that, and there's a third party in the book.
Oh yeah,
Andre, and you can empathize with each and every one of them. She treats such wholly empathetic characters.
Yeah, she's such a good writer. She's a little bit mysterious to me, in terms of how present she feels in the world. Makes me respect her even more because she doesn't seem to mess around with novelties. Like I can't find her in a way. Do you know what I mean? But in the same way that, I can't find Donna Tartt either.
Well, I was going to ask you when it comes to Donna, I mean, because she is so famously reclusive.
Yeah.
As someone who has spent the majority of your life in the public eye, do you think about that in terms of authors, like what they owe us and sort of, or even but that reticence and what we demand and want of people who write these books?
Yeah, I feel terrible about the way I feel almost like cheap and kind of common in the way I feel about Donna Tartt. I think about her a lot. Like I actually give her a lot of thought. She created this relationship with her reader that is very unique. She did give us a book every 10 years. She really did it.
She did. It's now been
over 10 years.
Yeah,
it's like we're into year 11 for Goldfinch, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have another author in my life who is as supremely gifted, has a kind of hold on me in the same way, because she's a living person and she has the possibility of production. Like there's more.
I mean, it just...
Like she has a unique... My daughter, who's 15 now, soon to be 16, but she's been obsessed with Donna Tartt now, going on 3 or 4 years. So this is a thing, and this is very special. And this is not Donna Tartt's doing. This is somebody who can write a book called The Secret History and capture with intelligence, and like it has this touch of fantasy about it, because she captures language so well, and she captures, codes and physical stuff. It's what Sally Rooney has done so beautifully, but Donna Tartt's always had a darkness to it that is very seductive, because it feels like the truth of your fear and your hope at the same time. And so that book was incredible. And I love The Secret Friend. Like
Secret History.
Secret History. No. Then the one after, A Little Friend. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I love A Little Friend. Like, is it Dora? Is that the character?
I've only read Secret History and Goldfinch, but I'm a huge Secret History person.
Yeah, and I think she owes us nothing. Let me go back to your question. I think she owes us nothing. And I think she owes her readers nothing, and beyond what she feels good about giving us because we know her offerings already.
Yeah.
So we don't want anything she doesn't want to give us. But that creates a whole other thing because she's young and she potentially has 4 more books in her, right? Basically 3 or 4 more books. And so she doesn't have to be here on social media.
No.
She doesn't have to do interviews. She doesn't have to show up at my dinner party except in my fantasies, you know?
She is like a number one guest for me at
Yeah.
an imaginary dinner party game.
And I guess like probably for some, Philip Roth, like a previous generation, might have had the same thing in that he was always producing. He was much more prolific, obviously, than her. But there was a thing about like how to kind of magic. And when you're producing that many, there's more criticism wrapped.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the personal criticism stuff. I'm
No,
talking about
no.
his work and the stuff that it was not controversial. But she's just very enigmatic and uber feminine. And then this other thing that's not at all plain. It like her dress.
I mean, she was on the Vanity Fair Best Dress list the same year she won the Pulitzer. Like, it's just she has such a mystique and cultivated aura that it is both so withholding but also like arresting.
Yeah, but I love her, and I have a fantasy that one of the books I'm going to read for Booker will be hers, but I doubt it.
Could be incredible.
Yeah, she is particularly special to me. Like and so should we talk about the Goldfinch?
I think we should talk about the Goldfinch.
Yeah. Now, I will say once again that I was really privileged to read a very early copy before it was published. I could talk about it with the people that were in this very funny book group that I miss all the time.
What was the book group? I mean, you don't have to name
The
names,
book group
but...
didn't have a name. It was just a book group that Molly Stern and I started because
Molly's a literary agent, right?
she ran Crown Publishing.
Yes, of course.
And now she runs Zando.
Yes.
And she did lots of other, been a publisher for many, many years and was in other houses of publishing. But so we decided we wanted to start a book club that was reading yet to be published literary fiction so that we could find ways of supporting literary fiction because back then literary fiction is so much easier to get your hands on now. So we got our hands on the Goldfinch, and so I could talk about it with those people, but like with nobody else, and I think it's perfect. Now, not everybody agrees, I know, and maybe not everybody wants to go to Sweden.
I didn't, yeah. I really liked going to Vegas.
Vegas is incredible.
That's my favorite.
Just her ability to like describe those deserted cul-de-sacs, you know?
Just that depressive,
Yes.
barren town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, I do like reading about debauchery, and I keep going back to I'm like, I like bad characters. I do like to read about people behaving badly, and boy, did she fulfill that itch for me.
You know, I didn't know at the time because I wasn't hearing yet from anybody, but I really did feel like we really do have our modern day Dickens. And I don't say that to be diminishing actually to Donna Tartt, because Donna Tartt is the modern day Donna Tartt. Like she doesn't need anybody else. But with the exception of Jonathan Franzen, nobody was taking on in contemporary literature this big an effort and these big sweeping tales that are really small if you think about it. You have a boy who's lost. It's that simple. Who has something valuable. These are very old ideas, right? He has something somebody else wants, basically. And he's alone in the world. So once again, how do you find home? What is home? What's the connection? And he meets that extraordinary man, you know, Hobie, who I used to imagine that I saw on 10th Street all the time because I figured out where his shop was, which is basically between 6th and 5th.
Okay.
I kind of worked my way over from the Jefferson Market Library.
Yep.
She just took something very simple and she sends this boy out into the world with missed opportunities of love and inability, you know, he can't express himself. So he's in one place and can't say what he needs, and he's in another place and can't say what he needs. And it's not like a news story.
No, but
But she loves her characters so much, and she's very old-fashioned in a way.
Yeah,
you know?
they are. I mean, reading them, it does not, even the time period this is set in surprised me. It wouldn't be when I thought, because it has this Dickinson element, and Secret History has such a Brideshead Revisited. Like, it really just feels so steeped in literary history.
Yeah. And you just feel her devotion to it. And I think that's the thing that is most striking about the books that we're talking about today. And they say, like, oh, the goal of yoga is that you're supposed to be effortlessly effortful or something. Like, your effort shouldn't show, basically. Like, when you're a master of it. And I think, like, all of these people did that. And Donna Tartt's a great example. Like, I don't feel her effort, but you're not feeling the writer constantly showing you how hard they're working, constantly saying, see, look what I'm giving you, more pages. And yes, we can argue about Sweden or not. Didn't bother me, because the last thing I wanted was to be without Donna Tartt. So I will go on a journey. I'll go to Sweden with her.
When you were talking about the book club, it made me want to ask you, who's your favorite person to talk about books with?
I love talking about books with my daughter. Because she's like, and she'll plan it. She'll say, like, tomorrow morning I have to do this and I do this, but can we meet? And I want to talk to you about where I am in the Goldfinch, or where I am in Intermezzo, or where I am in whatever book she's reading. I love talking to her about books. A lot of people in my life are readers, so it's great. And it's the one thing on social media that I feel like no problems talking about. Like, really? You can't find a problem with this because it's just a book.
I mean,
there's nothing else
but there shouldn't be.
But it's like, it doesn't bother me. There's no controversy about saying this is an extraordinary book and I will never forget it. And I hope that you find your way to this book.
Now, last but certainly not least, the first book you ever published, A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza. How did it come to be that you published this one?
This was sent as a manuscript. She had just left the Iowa Writers Workshop. She just graduated.
Which literary agent? I mean, not for them.
Wiley.
Yep, that's the fancy one.
One of the agents there, her agent, submitted this manuscript. It was very, very early on in my publishing days. I had been reading manuscripts at that point. I'd read half a dozen maybe. And I started reading this one, and I put it down immediately and called Molly and was like, we have to try. We have to try to get this book. And I doubt we will, because she's at the Wiley Agency, and she's a very important new voice in American literature. So my guess is a lot of people are going to be wanting this book. But we just will make our best efforts, because I just knew that it was something and that she was something.
Going through all of these with you today and now thinking about an ending here, it really does feel like an encapsulation of just all the things you love in a book.
Yeah.
A family story, it's bruisey, but it's also rich in not history, but in culture and what's happening, and just the interpersonal. It just feels, of course it's Fatima's book, but I see you in it now that we've been through this journey together.
Yes, we have been through a journey. And I think the thing that I also love about what she not only attempted but accomplished was, she's a person of faith herself, and she has her own relationship to her faith. And that is the case for a lot of people who were raised in a family where faith was the way you focused your lives, and you made choices around that. There are a lot of people of faith who live their lives and they have a day or a time or a place, but this is, for some families, faith is, and for this particular family, being Muslim, to abandon it in the way in which they had paid attention to it, felt that they were losing body parts that they needed to, so it was very hard for them to recognize their beloved daughter and perhaps son try to find their own way to their culture and to their religion, and appreciate the ways in which those two children were trying so hard to honor their parents, but also create their own identity as adults and as Americans. And I just think that is such a real experience for so many people. And at the time, not a lot of people were talking about this kind of very, as Molly Stern always said, this very American family in all its plurality.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really great success for her.
You have so many amazing platforms to amplify books. You know, there's the publishing you do, there's your production company, your Instagram. You also really make sure to have books featured on And Just Like That. Mm-hmm. How do you parse through what belongs where and thinking about it in those terms? And I do think for the And Just Like That major fans, how you think about going about the books to amplify on the show.
For the show, we're very thoughtful about Carys books versus anything that I might read, but there is overlap, of course. I have this amazing, we have an amazing property master on the show, and we have an amazing on-set prop person. Our property master is a woman named Jo, who's really fantastic, and we've now, at this point, she understands to reach out to all the indie publishers well in advance of us shooting and looking for books that by the time the show's on the air will be published, or there would be an arc of, like, it's a little complicated timing thing. And so we get a really interesting collection of books. A lot of books that I wouldn't typically reach for. And then Cassette, our on-set prop person, is incredible. And she and her team keep the books everywhere we go. So we'll be doing a street scene even. I'll be like, you know what? I should have a book in my hands. What do you have? And she's always, or at a restaurant, if I'm waiting as Carrie, you know, I want to be reading, then they come in, I can put the book down, but I want, you know. So it's that group of people that organize that. And then, so that's how we do that. And that's very different sometimes than what I'm reading. And then for me, I you know, it's hard right now because I can't really be on Instagram talking about books because everything I'm reading is a book.
Because you're secretly reading the new Friends and the new Donna Tartt, all these things that you only know because of the Booker Press.
That I can only, and so I can't share what I'm reading. So for about 6-7 months, it's been really, it will be hard for me because it's the easiest thing for me to talk about. I can talk about the books I'm publishing, thankfully, and that's a joy. And we just have been talking a lot about these days. And we did a reveal this morning of our cover of our next book called I Am You by Victoria Riddell. Which is a book that I love this book so much. I love it so much. So it's very easy for me to talk about books on Instagram. It comes naturally, and I don't panic or worry or overthink it. The rest of the stuff, it's a little more fraught.
Yeah. What do you think are some of Carrie's 4 favorite books?
Oh my God.
It's a fun time.
Here's what it's a really good question. I can tell you one for sure because we overlooked this. And I'm deeply regretful. By way of Rachel Symes at The New Yorker, she wrote the foreword for the 60th anniversary of The Best of Everything by Rona.
Is it a Macmillan?
Rona Barrett?
Is it a
Rona Barrett?
Okay, I haven't read it yet.
It's a Macmillan book from 65 years ago. So what does that make it? The 40s, the 50s? What is it? 65 years ago? Yeah, the late 50s, 60s. Yeah. It's a book called The Best of Everything. You've not read it?
No.
Okay, so 2 books for you. There, and The Best of Everything.
And a doc. I'm like going home with an embarrassment.
And what's the other one?
The documentary.
Oh, the documentary. Yeah, you're good for the next 3 or 4 days. That's one book, but I can't think of anything else right now. But The Best of Everything. Once you read that, you will know why I said that.
I love that.
Like, we are remiss in that book did not play a part in our show. It doesn't make any sense. Read that, and you're gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, Sarah Jessica, thank you so much for
taking the time. My pleasure. Thank you for always such an intelligent interview. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of you. I'm not kidding.
This was really fun.
I was really good.
Really excited.